Nyk Lewis, a four-star guard in the 2025 class, has 6 schools. His final list of 6. He announced this yesterday. Creighton, Xavier, Seton Hall, LSU, Michigan, and Georgetown. Nyk Lewis is a fun prospect. He's not the very, very top of the guard list. If you try to rank the best guards in high school basketball right now, he's not going to come up in the first batch, but I think there's a lot of upside here. We have talked about him on the channel before, I believe, and Dusty May seems to be prioritizing. He played with Team Takeover. He's a 6'1" point guard, and there is a lot to like here, in my opinion. Final 6 schools includes 4 Big East schools and LSU and Michigan. What do you make of this final list and Nyk Lewis in general?
I really like him a lot. He's like one, Greg. Yeah, I know we talked about in depth the other day about the WCAC conference in the DMV area. He falls into that category, plays at Gonzaga Prep. He's like the thing is like when I watch Nyk Lewis is he a point guard in your eyes? Like I know he runs point, but like
Yeah.
he's also like lanky at the same time and like has like this wiggle and kind of quick twitch to his game. He's also incredibly fast. Like when I think the first video I saw from him was like 2 or 3 years ago, and people were doing the this is the next baby De'Aaron Fox type thing because of his speed. He's not De'Aaron, don't get me wrong, but like I could kind of see why people could see that given like he's got like the handle, the speed, and also like the long arms, kind of like a De'Aaron Fox. I really like his game a lot. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. I don't love the combo guard term because to me you could say that about any guard in the country. Like if you're a point guard, you can play shooting guard just fine. If you're a shooting guard, you can play point guard just fine. Unless you straight up can't shoot, then there's an issue there. But like I do think he's sort of in between. Like he plays a lot of point guard. That's what you see on the film. But I could see, given his skill sets and what I consider his strengths, more of him in like a secondary creator role at college. I don't think he's like the biggest assist guy, and that would be the main reason I say that, right? Like I don't watch his tape and be like the best part about his game is his floor general playmaking. I see more of the athletic gifts, the self creation for scoring. He can pass a little bit. He's not a black hole by any means, but to me, he's a guy who gets to his spots. He has a really good in between floater, like all these little quirky shots. He can finish at the rim through contact. The jumper's not bad. I think it could be better, but it's not bad, especially off the dribble. I think he can be an offensive engine, even if he's not like a pure point guard at the college level.
Yeah, and I think honestly, one good thing that works for him is that at least in the stuff that I've seen for his high school, he's the point guard, right? Like he's doing all the point guard stuff. But on Team Takeover, he's more off the ball because they got a point guard on his AAU team. So on the EYBL circuit, he was more like off ball-ish type player. And I thought he did very well in that role, but he seems to be more of a point guard role for his high school.
Yeah. Yeah. Good that he's kind of playing both and you get to see him in both roles. What do you make of the list itself? I mentioned there's 4 Big East schools here. Obviously it's a good list. Clearly, it speaks to a lot of teams wanting him. It also, coming from a Michigan fan, is a list that feels winnable. Like maybe the 4 Big East schools point to the fact that he wants to play in that conference, but there is no Duke here. There is no Kentucky here. You're not going up against the biggest bag schools in the world. You're going up against some of the non-UConn Big East teams, and this is one I would circle that I feel like Dusty May could win if he executes.
Right. Question for you. I just want to make sure I got the right here. Is Nyk Lewis listed at 6'1"?
I saw that on
I saw that on three. I swore he was bigger than 6'1".
yeah, I saw 6'1" on just like a Twitter breakdown recently too. I think he's six
Huh.
one.
Okay, wow. Well, he looks a lot taller than 6'1". It must be like the long arms thing that's tricking you, or tricking folks a little bit. But yeah, I mean, definitely a winnable list. The fact that like Nyk Lewis is like in the 50 range. Once again, I think that's gonna be a common theme whenever we're doing videos on this class. This class is great. Like Nyk Lewis being the 50, 60th guy in this class. But it is a winnable recruitment. The only thing that would scare me if I am Michigan is like does Georgetown lock back in on the DMV side and like, oh, come be with Malik Mack, right? Like be the DMV backcourt or a Seton Hall. I feel like Shaheen Holloway has a way that he can kind of connect to those guys. Obviously, being from that area, maybe he's a guy that could get him to Seton Hall. Xavier has the guard thing, but like I like Michigan's pitch here, and I think it is one that they could. You don't look at this, you don't see like oh shit, Kansas is on the list. Well, we had a good run. Like this is a winnable looking list.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I believe Dusty has a chance here is because Nyk is a very downhill sort of physical guard, even though he has skill. Like he's very like, let's get downhill, let's go toward the rim, blah blah blah, put pressure on the defense in that way vertically. And it does remind me of John L. Like John L was not the biggest guy ever, right? He's bigger than Nyk. At least I don't know what John L was in high school, but the college version of John L was bigger. But when you watch John L, it felt like John L was like able to sort of weave through traffic and get to the rim and finish at the rim, even though he wasn't the biggest guy. I think there's a pretty clear pitch from Dusty, as we've talked about. His first roster at Michigan does not have the guy who is supposed to be the guy in the backcourt. It has a pass first guy in Trey Donaldson, and it has some freshmen that people like. I love Lorenzo Kaysen, but I don't know. Like it's sort of much like with the Dalton Connect leaving Tennessee thing. It felt like there's like, why has nobody wanted the Dalton Connect role? And then two guys took it. Or Illinois, why has nobody asked for the Terrence Shannon role? And then Kasparis came in. Like there's a pretty wide opening to be like Dusty's first John L. Davis at Michigan. And Nyk would be a very good fit for that, in my opinion. Again, he's not Darius Akoff, who Dusty's also trying to get, but he's a guy who projects to be there for multiple years and I think would be a good engine. So I'm hopeful they can do it. With that said, the list screams he's going to stay in the Big East to me. And I'd be lying if I didn't say to you, he reminds me of a lot of the good Big East guards we've loved through the years. Like
Yeah, he
you
does.
see that Xavier logo, and I'm just like, okay, like they've had a couple guards in the last couple years that I fell in love with. Like even Seton Hall's toughness of their guards in the last couple years. If Xavier and Seton Hall would be great fits for him, I feel like.
Yeah, they would be perfect. Honestly, personally, I would love to see him go to Seton Hall. I think like him and Shaheen would be great. But you look at him, it does have the feel of a Big East guard.
Yeah. Yep. I guess we'll see. Do you want to make a prediction on where he goes, or no? You don't have a feel?
I don't have a feel, but I feel like throwing out a prediction though. I'm I'm gonna say, why is LSU on this list? I'm gonna say Xavier.
Yeah, Xavier and Seton Hall. I think Seton Hall scares me the most as a
I,
Michigan fan.
yeah, I would feel that. Yeah.
Yeah. Car, you know what I love about you?
That I'm handsome?
You're reliable. I can count on you. Honestly, you remind me of Aaron Henry a little bit. Remember when, like, their back was against the wall, nothing was going right, and man just showed up every day. He didn't make excuses. There were no problems, there were just solutions.
Sounds like me.
That's you. And it also reminds me of Duncan Mechanical Solutions, because if you're looking for quality furnace repair, look no further than the heating and air experts that you can trust. Comfort and quality are their standard. They're an HVAC company that serves Northeast Indiana and Southern Michigan, whether it's heating and air conditioning, plumbing, kitchen and bath remodeling, or emergency services when you need them most. Duncan Mechanical Solutions has reliable service that you can count on. Cart, remember when your basement almost exploded?
I remember when my basement almost exploded. I remember when my furnace itself was acting funny. I remember when my AC was acting funny. I wish I had Duncan in my back pocket. I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been anywhere in northern Indiana or southern Michigan that hasn't been perfectly cool or perfectly warm, depending on when the day called for. And that's because of Duncan Mechanical Solutions. They are the presenting sponsor for the month of July. Shout out to Duncan Mechanical Solutions. Go to duncanmechanicalsolutions.com to learn more.